Welcome back to another episode of the Skits and Giggles podcast. For this one, we sit down with Dave Tschumi, co-owner and the director of figures at Vast Trails. We get a behind-the-scenes look into the business of building trails, the different roles and skill sets in successful teams, collaboration, the quality and art in trail building, and, of course, Dave's own journey in mountain biking that took him from instigating his first trail projects as a teenager to working with brands and some of the biggest companies in the business, all the way to co-owning Vast Trails and putting his vision into the dirt. For more information about this episode and the Skits and Giggles podcast, you can just follow the links in the description. To support the podcast, please share this episode with your riding buddies, or just leave us a 5-star rating on your favorite platform. That's it, that's all, Skigglers, and here's our chat with Dave Tschumi. Welcome to the Skits and Giggles podcast, Dave Tschumi. How are you going tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks. How are you guys?
Oh, I'm doing great. We're also premiere tonight, first international recording with our main man, Bryson. How are you doing in Vienna tonight?
Everything's going well from Vienna. I can report that it is well as well.
All right. Well, we've had a number of trail builders on the podcast over recent episodes, many episodes actually. But I think this time is the first time we actually have like a fully professional, almost managerial trail builder on. So I'm really, really interested in tonight's conversation because I think it's an interesting perspective. Just to give us a bit of a feeling for who we're talking to, I think it would be nice to kind of talk through your journey with getting to trail building and running Vast Trails as you're doing today. So let's start at the beginning. How did you get into mountain biking at all?
I've always been a sports person. I grew up doing athletics and then got into ice hockey. I grew up in central Switzerland in Zug, so I played in the juniors for the EV Zug. Still a big fan, besides the Vancouver Canucks, of course. And I really was into hockey until I was like 12, I guess. And then kind of low in my school career and some crazy practice hours, like 6 a.m, ended my hockey career. It wasn't me, actually. It was my parents that ended my hockey career. So I looked for something else, and there was this mountain bike with fenders and packing stuff and everything in the garage. So I was like, all right, let's see what we can do with that thing. And I took it to the forest, and it was love at first sight. So the fenders were gone pretty soon. And I was riding the bike day and night, and then classical, got into cross-country racing, raced bikes all over Switzerland, joined the club, the Agri Bike Club, and went all around Switzerland, later on also Europe, until I broke my leg. I had a pretty bad accident, actually riding the Gurten Trail, and that ended my racing career. Also, I found out at the time that cross-country racing wasn't really my thing. And then, like many other guys, stopped the racing and got into enduro. Did a little bit of downhill racing. It was called the Magura Cup, and later on it was replaced by the IXS Downhill Cup.
Oh, wow.
Did a couple of fun races there, and kind of came into the mountain bike scene, and always loved being at events and traveling around, going to races to watch and just to be in the pits and to hang out with the people that I knew from my racing career. And been hooked ever since. Never ever let go of that two-wheel love.
All right. And have you also been, a common theme, certainly with a lot of trail builders, is that the digging trail and riding trail has kind of gone hand in hand for most of them. Has that also been the case for you?
Yeah, same. We didn't have many trails. It was more forestry roads, and we had loads of them, which were leading us to the trailheads in a perfect way. So we just started connecting dots, which were our trails. We had no idea at the time. We just went in and did straight lines because that was fun.
Yeah.
Started building jumps. That was fun too. Started building bigger jumps, and that's how it all started actually. Until we got in trouble with the local forestry guy, with the wildlife managers, and then we found out that it wasn't that easy just to go in the woods and build your own stuff. And this is how I got into touch with trail building at a very young age. I think I was like 13, 14 when we did that. And yeah, we started an initiative in our area for legal trails. It was really hard because we fight it so hard, but nobody was listening to us actually. So we were not allowed to build any legal trails, and I thought that's a challenge, and I think probably that's what led me to where I am right now. I accepted the challenge and super stoked to be in the position where I'm at now, that I can actually live of what I love to do, planning and building trails. And yeah, it's not that much of a fight anymore. We're fortunately at a different place now in the year 2024.
Oh, absolutely. And can you, just for the listener, kind of to give it some, historical context, right? So when would that have been when you started to have like the discussion with the local forestry guy about building a legal trail? And, because of course, depending where you set that starting point of, where mountain biking started and trail building started and where we are today, right? That can be quite a significant period.
All right, now you're just gonna expose me that I'm really old. So
Well,
that was
I
in
can date myself, so.
that was in the early 90s.
Oh, there you go.
I started mountain biking in 1991, I think it was. Yeah,
Oh, there you go. Same
so that was in the
same
early
time.
90s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got my first real mountain bike in 1991.
What
So
was
there
it?
you go. It was a Panasonic M700 in blood red marble.
Oh my God.
I know. It was
Awesome.
wild with yellow decals, and it was fully rigid. Obviously, you had the cantilever brakes. So, but yeah, we put a lot of stickers on them because that was really cool. You
I
had to
had
have stickers.
I had the MTB Cycle Tech at the
Oh
time.
yeah, well that was also a big brand at the time.
Hmm.
Well, they're still around. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt. So let's say that was mid 90s, early 90s, where you started illegal trail building. We're now in mid 2020s. So what happened in the meantime? So how did you take it from I love digging trails in the forest to you make this an actual business?
I did an apprenticeship at Lego. You probably know the plastic toys
Yeah.
in Zug, and learned my trades there. Then after my apprenticeship, I was really curious to see the world. I went traveling, went to New Zealand for a winter. Also love snowboarding, so I spent the winter snowboarding there. Came back, spent the winter snowboarding in Europe. Then I went to Canada, wanted to learn some English, and eventually got stuck there for a year and a half. I worked there and did a lot of snowboarding and mountain biking. Whistler Bike Park was just about getting started in the early years, and did a lot of mountain biking there as well. Did a lot of mountain biking in Squamish on the North Shore as well. and didn't want to leave until they kicked me out. After a year and a half, I couldn't extend my visa anymore, so I went back home to Switzerland. And because I was working in Canada, I didn't spend much money at the time. I could afford to study back home in Switzerland. Went to the Engadine and studied tourism for 3 years, and came to Cour to complete my bachelor's degree in tourism and management, and went straight into the bicycle industry from there. Went to Intercycle. It's part of the Hostetler Group, and was working there as a product manager. Had some awesome brands such as Yeti Cycles, Troy Lee Designs, Spank,
wow.
Yoga, etc., which I was responsible of for all of Switzerland. And yeah, I was right there where I wanted to be. Went to all the events all around Europe. Was able to travel to the US to see Yeti Cycles, take part at the Yeti Tribe gatherings. That was an awesome time. Yeah, and then I broke my leg again
The other one, I hope.
at the Gordon Trail again.
That seems to be a theme.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be my fortunate trail. Probably it's just my lack of skills when jumping and or landing. So yeah, that kind of changed things up a bit in my life. I broke up with my former girlfriend. We were together for 7 years at the time, and I was kind of lost for some time. Then I was gonna join Yeti Cycles in the US to become international sales manager. And I was in US, came back home, and just wanted to get some things sorted so I could move to the US to do that job there, which sounded super interesting at the time. But then I met my former girlfriend, the one that I had before, by coincidence at a local open air, and yeah, it came as it had to come, and we came together again. And just a year later, we found out that we were going to be a family. So that was it for my American adventure, and I had to get a serious job to take care of a family. So yeah, I found a job at the clothing brand, which had an office at the time in Cham, Zug, where I lived. They got bought by a big group, PPR, only 2 years later, and they closed the office I was working at, so I was on the streets overnight, which wasn't cool with a family at home. So went back into the sports scene or the sports industry. Went to an event agency in Zurich that organized the Swiss Epic at the time. The Perskindal Swiss Epic it was called. The multi-day stage race across the Valais. Crazy amount of vertical meters per day, like 3,000 per.
Yeah, but
per
the wrong
day.
direction. The wrong direction. It's
Yeah.
all uphill.
There was the flow category, which was awesome. You had half the uphills by shuttle or gondola. So yeah, I worked there for 2 years, and then ran into Claudio Caluori just by coincidence. And he was that was I think 2014, no 2015, and he was just getting started with the asphalt pump track business. He laid the first asphalt in 2012 on a pump track in Cour, and as you guys know, the whole pump track revolution
And the rest is history.
is history. Exactly, it just exploded
Crazy.
from there, and so did Claudio's business at the time. And he was just looking for a guy to take care of things. He was still involved in downhill racing, was running his own team at the time. Traveling all around the world, building pump tracks, building trails. Things were just all over the place. So I came in there. There were only 2 or 3 employees, pretty small company, and I jumped in there, and it just exploded. The whole pump track thing, as you guys all know. And only 5 years later, we were around 30 or 40 people just in Switzerland, had a headquarter in Flims. That's also what brought me to Flims. I'm living in Flims since 7 years now, living the mountain life, and had 21 international partners, like franchise partners, which were Velo Solutions representatives in their countries. And yeah, it was so crazy. I just still can't believe what happened in such a short amount of time. Was traveling loads, went to Russia, to China, to Brazil, India. Was a crazy time, but eventually I found out that it wasn't a very suitable lifestyle with a family. We have 2 kids, and yeah, I was just too much consumed by work, and Claudio's mission was just continuing, and I found out that I couldn't keep up with that whole development. So I took a break, kind of stepped back a bit. I was CEO at the time of the company. Um, was working on projects for half a year, and in that half a year I found out that I just needed to take it a bit easier, needed to be more in contact with my family. I was starting to lose contact with my kids, with my wife, and yeah, we found that out. We found out that if I wasn't going to change something, that yeah, we wouldn't have made the turn together. So we changed things. My wife Connie, she went and studied again, and I went back home and looked after the kids. Was the houseman, and my wife studied anesthetics at the hospital in Chur for 2 years. So we completely switched roles, which was a real great change of perspective. And yeah, besides being a houseman and taking care of my kids and keeping the back of my wife free, I had my own little consulting business called Bureau Tschumi, and I just managed a few projects. I was actually able to manage the Höckler Trail, the construction of the Höckler Trail in Zurich, as a mandate for Velo Solutions. I had a couple of other mandates, and yeah, it was pretty good. Worked at 40-50%. And then eventually our ways with Severin, Schnurri, and Philip crossed again, because we all worked together at Velo Solutions at different stages, not all at the same time, but at different stages. And they started their thing with Vast Trails, and they just needed some help on the legal side and asked me if I could jump in, and so I jumped in again. And yeah, the rest is history. One thing led to the other, and we found out that we really match our competences pretty well together, and that my skill set from the management and economical side fits really well into the triangle they had. And here I am, 2 years in now, being a co-owner of Vast Trails, and enjoying life, building trails, planning trails, and still riding trails. That's very important.
What a story. So good. I love that. Preston, is there anything you wanted to add to this? I mean, wide open. You go.
Yeah, I mean, your character comes through on the story because it's right from the beginning. You're telling us you won't back down when your local home trail, where they're telling you, yeah, you can't build a trail here, and you thought, you know what, I got to challenge this. I got to make something happen, and just the whole way, you're just taking the next challenge. So kudos to you. That's a really good story. I like that.
Cool, thanks. Sorry for the long talk.
It's really cool. It shows off your character.
Absolutely. And of course, I can relate to taking a step back and, doubling down on the family and taking care of the kids and all that, because that's, exactly what I've done last year. So, and I'm still going, still not going crazy. So let's see what the future brings. I mean, it seemed like the right thing to do for you. And I think it's always good to take a break and, reconsider your priorities and then decide based on those, and then usually something good follows.
Definitely, yeah.
But actually, did that childhood trail ever materialize? That very first one that you petitioned for?
No, unfortunately not.
Oh,
No, it's a natural reserve now.
okay.
It's like a
Yeah.
protected
Off
zone.
limits. Got to
It's
respect
off
that.
limits, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a no-go zone now.
Okay. But maybe you took elements from that wish list and put it in other places around the world.
Yes. Not building that way anymore, but definitely still integrating some elements that I had on my mind at the time.
All right, but so today, so of course you leaned back into trail building and coming back into the business. So of course the obvious question is what drives you to push on? What is the inspiration for what you do?
The inspiration is to make nature and landscape accessible through infrastructure. So we get people out and get them to experience nature, to experience themselves, to experience friendship, and to get an approach to nature and environment in a very creative way. Yeah, I think nowadays everything needs to be entertained and needs to be action and needs to be cool, and I think it's just a cool way to step off also that whole digital world and get back into analog mode and get in touch with nature. And I think that's what people are looking for, and that's also one of the reasons why mountain biking is on the grow. It's one of the most popular sports in not only Switzerland, it's growth all around the world. And being on the journey since a very long time, more than 30 years now, it's my daily inspiration and drive to keep developing that movement and that infrastructure. And nowadays, it's such a big thing that businesses started occurring, and it's a business case now. So it's a privilege actually to be in that situation, to be connecting those dots that I wanted to connect back in my youth forest.
All right. Maybe also to set the stage a little bit with Vast Trails. Of course, we are like very deep in the scene and what's happening around the country in terms of trail building. But maybe can you talk a little bit about some of the highlight projects that you guys have been working on that people can maybe recognize?
Our lighthouse certainly is Bike Park Belwald. That was pretty much from day one of Vast Trails. We were able to help them realizing their vision. As you probably know, Bike Park Belwald is one of the older bike parks in Switzerland. They've been around also since the early 2000 years. And they created a vision about 6-7 years ago to become a very professional, well-established bike park. And when Vast was founded, especially Philip, co-owner of Vast, who also lives in Wallis, he was a big part of this journey. And Vast kind of started getting into the planning process, helping them optimizing things, the whole system, the structure, the plans, and then especially the construction side. We were mandated to build most of the trails. The downhill track already exists. So we were building 5 more trails, or actually building another one, which we're going to complete this summer. Nice enduro trail on the top section. So this is definitely a showcase of what we think mountain bike infrastructure should look like. It's very close together. You can access by lift, and you have a big variety of different trail types, trail styles, from flow trail to play trail, jump trail, enduro trail, downhill trail. It's all there, and that's what we think is key. That it's not all just the same. That there is an identity to a certain destination, and also peel out the uniqueness of a destination, and then also have the progression within the different trail styles. And that's Bike Park Belwald. That's probably the best showcase of what Vast Trails is all about.
I've yet to go, but I've heard many, many great things, and I'm really, really curious. I also read about one of the projects you were involved in, also in the Valais region, the Wisperterminen, this rebuild of this, what is it called, the Phoenix Forest,
Yep.
that was completely burnt down, and you were able to rebuild the trail, right?
Exactly, yeah. 12, or I think it was 13 years ago, there was this devastating forest fire, wildfire. And there used to be a hiking trail, which was pretty cool to ride at the time. But then the whole side of the mountain got closed because it wasn't stable anymore. So it had to grow back in. And now, 13 years later, it's safe again to go in there. And we were mandated to open that trail again. So some parts we used the old tracé of the trail, of the old trail. Some parts we built new. So we actually had some space to play with to adapt the line and make it as attractive as possible. And it's just a mind-blowing scenery there. Those burned trees, the new growing trees, then the view to the main down to the main valley of the Valais. It's a really nice one.
You guys are doing a lot of good work, it seems. But it's not just you, right? It's a couple of guys, or do you have a team? How does this work?
Exactly. Fast Trails is it's not about individuals. It's about the collective. It's about the team. It's about the dialogue. We are 4 co-owners. It's Claudio Schnurrenberger, also known as Schnurri. He was on Zurich Trails podcast just a few weeks ago, also with Pascal. Then there is Philippe Bont. He's pretty well known in the Valais. He's been living there for more than 10 years now, well established there. And Severin Schindler. We, as I mentioned before, we all worked together at Velo Solutions at the time. And then we have a pretty cool crew of 7 more guys working with us. 3 of them are employed like on a fixed contract all year long, and then the other guys, they come in for the building season. They are on the building team, so they start between March and May and work all the way till October, November. And then they go to their winter jobs. Mario, for example, he's a cat driver in the Snowpark Laax. He does that for a passion, so he's a real shaper, very dedicated shaper. And it's a very diverse crew. We have Jochen Duski. He's one of the main characters at Anti-Dirt in Zurich, very well-known dirt spot. He's a very dedicated dirt slapper. We have Leo. He's a very skilled rider, and he's our tech guy when it comes to CAD drawings. Super nice guy. Cool to have him on board since 2 years now. And now the latest addition to our team is Greg Jolliffe.
The main
You guys
man,
probably know.
the main G.
The main G, yeah. Our paths crossed several times. He was also on the build team when we were building the Höckler Trail 4 years ago, and he also has a pretty cool story. He fell in love with Switzerland and also a girl of Switzerland, so he ended up in Valais. not far from the Vast Trails headquarters. So it was a natural match that he started working with us as well now, which is pretty cool. And then we have Marco. He just joined us this year. He's a landscaper from central Switzerland. He was also building trails just by himself and wanted to make his passion as his profession. And this is Vast Trails, a crew of 12 super dedicated people trying to create the best functioning shapes and designs possible.
In the heat of the conversation and under the immense pressure to perform on the podcast, Dave forgot to mention 3 more members of the Vast Trails crew: Donat, Till, and Levi. He promised to buy these guys a beer, so please do remind him to come through whenever you see him out on the trails. Now back to our chat with Dave. All right, well, this is actually the part I really want to talk about. Is like this, you talked about the diversity, you talked about the team and the people, how they come together. And I'm just curious, right? Because, of course, in my previous life, I spent a lot of time on, how do you actually build functioning teams, high-performing teams. And, of course, I try to translate that a little bit to my passion now, which is obviously bikes. And so I'm curious to better understand, how do you pick the guys you work with?
Yeah, that's super crucial in our business because there is no apprenticeship, there's no curriculum you can study at any university. There are so many skills that have to come together to actually be in the place to build sustainable and functioning trails. So I think a key success factor of Vast Trails is the complementary skill set that the 4 co-owners bring in. But it's, as I said before, not just the 4 co-owners, it's the whole team that makes Vast Trails. We foster a flat hierarchy. We foster a dialogue, a constant dialogue on everything, especially on design, on how to build trails, how to build forms and shapes. And that way we try to find the suiting characters to fit into our team. It's the mindset is highly important to be on the same level when it comes to the philosophy. To us, quality is of highest importance. We try to build fewer projects, but at the highest possible quality standards. So there you need this type of person that always puts quality on top of everything and is willing to go the extra mile, even when it's snowing or raining or just whatever. You want to go and be down for the cause. And that way, it's actually our biggest challenge to find those talented and skilled people to fit into our team. But as we all have been in the scene for many years now, we have a good network. We know many people, we know many shapers, we know many guys who know other guys who shape, and that way it kind of all flows together naturally. Up until this spring, we never put out a job ad. We always found the people because we just crossed our ways and it just matched. We had Etienne and Mike, our 2 first employees who left the company by the end of last year, unfortunately. But understandably, they were on our journey for almost 4 years, both of them. But being on the road, being on projects, being away from home all the time, that's one part which is challenging of the job as a trail builder. And these 2 talented individuals decided to be more at home, which is 100% understandable. And that way we had to put out a job ad this spring just to complete our team again. I mean, we could have just phoned up a few guys that we know and would probably have matched the team as well, but we were curious to find out what kind of applications were going to come in. And it was interesting to see. We had applications from Madeira, from Great Britain, we had from Spain, Germany, Austria. It was crazy because we're a small company, we're a local company. We have only done projects in a German-speaking part of Switzerland, but still, so many people kind of found out about that job ad and did about 15, 16 applications. And yeah, ended up with Marco, who joined our team that I mentioned before. And I forgot, we have our first female trail builder in
Oh,
the team of
nice.
Live Trails, Emma, who's going to join us starting in June. So we're really looking forward to having her on the team and bringing in some female drive to our men's world, which which is going to be cool.
But usually, if I understand it correctly, this whole trail building, let's say community or the business side of it is usually more or less independent contractors that work for the different trail building companies. So is that what Vast is doing? Is that kind of something new, or has there always been kind of a company that has builders on payroll, so to speak, for the full year? Or is that because, of course, that's how you interact with each other, and then one year you work with this guy, and then next year he's going to come with this crew and all that sort of stuff? Or is that kind of one way of how you build your network, let's say?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a mix of both. At the stage where the market of trail building is now in Switzerland, it's really hard to find talent and skilled people, as I mentioned before, because the demand is growing and there is not that many very experienced trail builders around. So there are quite a few trail builders that used to work for trail building companies that kind of became freelancers now and just hire themselves out on a project basis. We also work together with Felix and Jonas, two super skilled pump track builders, when we built our pump track in Ebikon, Lucerne. So we took these two guys on board because we started quite early. We last year February wasn't as this year; it was super dry and warm. So we thought we might just kick off the building season. But our building team was still in the winter jobs, so we didn't have enough manpower, and we knew that that it was going to be a super intense pump track build. So it was logical to get Felix and Jonas on board. But that was like the only time that we worked with freelancers. The rest is our crew. We really want to grow together as a team, want to be one brand together, and also want all the individuals to make fast trails and identify together and grow together as a team. And that's also why we want to stay small and independent. We don't want to grow bigger than we are right now. We want to consolidate on the level when it comes to headcount, but grow on a quality level together. That way, we want to stay together as a team as long as possible. Of course, we're going to have people stepping off our journey as they want to stay at home and yeah, work more regular hours and stuff. But that's the ambition, to stay as long and as consistent as a team as we can be.
And do you have like in your team, you have like dedicated guys for certain parts of trail projects? So like there is there's the jump line guy, and there's like the corner guy, and there's the whatever
skid
technical
guy.
section guy, the skid guy. Where is the skid meister?
Yeah, we have all sorts of talents throughout our crew. That's pretty cool. I believe that when you put people in the right place, where they feel at home, to bring in their skill set as good as possible, then they also perform at their best level. So therefore, we have different talents, as I said. We also have different interests. Like Jochen, for example, he loves slapping dirt. He can do that all day. He can move tons of dirt just with a single shovel. So he's the guy when it comes to slapping dirt and building nice lips and forms. Then the machine part is also quite an important part, of course. Then we have like different skill sets there when it comes to driving excavators, because the excavator driver is like the main tact of the song of a trail build. And there, depending on the trail style you're building, you need another skill set as well. So there we have different skills as well. A crawler excavator driver, Shnuri is a very dedicated crawler excavator driver, which is super hard to find. So that's our goal, to have the right people in the right position, and then the projects come out pretty well.
I can appreciate that the fact that you're trying to maintain like a sustainable business kind of model or practice while keeping the crew solid and keeping quality on top. Is there a point where you're thinking about, okay, how do we differentiate ourselves from the other trail builders or the other trail building company competition? And, respectively, it's not about that, right? It's not about growing into a massive company. It's about doing your work with pride as a passion and keeping it that way for as long as possible. But, of course, there's that balance of, where do we take it, or, do we not take it? So what's your take on that position?
Yeah, that's a good question. At the end of the day, we also have to pay wages. We have to buy machines. We have to buy tools. We have to rent a workshop, social welfare, etc., etc. It's a business, but still, we believe that there is, at the stage where the market of trail building is right now, there is room now for some differentiation, and we really position us at the spot where it comes to low quantity of projects, at the highest possible quality. Because when you're building a trail, you can have done the best planning, you can have checked everything, you can have made analysis of the ground, but once you start digging, there are always surprises, and it's always some sort of trial and error. But if you're too much under pressure, then there is just not much room for trial and error. Then it's just trial sometimes, and then you end up building something that you're not 100% okay with, but you have to move on because budget is tight or something. And that's our goal, really, to value the quality and also emphasize the importance of the quality, because we can't afford to plan and build bad trails, because nature and landscape is limited. When we build new trails, we consume nature and landscape, and therefore we have to make sure that it meets the needs of the target groups, so it works. Otherwise, it's a waste of nature and landscape. So we really think of it as a big responsibility, and want to take on this responsibility and work on the highest possible quality standards. And that way, we hope that also customers and clients understand that it's not always about the price, that it's really about making things properly, to make them last for a long time, and especially to make them work for as long as possible.
Which I couldn't say would be the actual trend, like maybe overall in the world or maybe even in mountain biking. Do you think that your influence on like in this direction, or do you think what you guys are doing in this direction has influenced other trail builders as well to kind of focus in on that part of trail building, the quality and the responsibility for resource management?
I think it's good that there are multiple players now in the trail building market that ups the game in general. I mean, that's normal economical market behavior. And if you're alone and you can build something, then there is no benchmark. And we always try to benchmark ourselves. But of course, there's so many good, dedicated, and skilled trail builders out there, which we also look at and sometimes look up to and see, oh my God, how did he do this or how did he do that? We do a big tour with the whole company once a year. We go to a nice destination and look at different builds and write them together and have a good time on them together and get inspired and challenge ourselves. So I think that's the good news, that there are more and more professional companies entering the market, and there we see also a little threat that it might get into just a fight of over price. And that's why we believe that quality needs to be the highest goal of what we build. And that's what we want to bring in the market, that we don't come into a mass production kind of scenery, which wouldn't help anyone out there. It wouldn't help us. We all love to ride trails. We love to ride the trails we built. And I think the worst that could happen to us, and I would stop building trails immediately if I wouldn't like the trails anymore that I build. Then I would have to stop right away and go and play golf or don't know what.
Build an epic golf course.
Exactly. 19 hole.
You mention quality or the highest quality standards, and of course the follow-on question is like, okay, what do you mean with quality, right? And I think it's, I've recently been part of a trail maintenance course where Vast Trails was also part of. It was with the Trail Foundation. There's much more to trail building, trail planning, and maintaining a trail that then speaks to the quality of the trail than people think. Can you explain a little bit kind of, how you think about these things? So kind of how that all fits together?
Yeah, it's there's so much that goes into a trail, and it doesn't start with the construction. It starts way earlier. It starts with the whole planning phase, the analysis, which is very crucial. And we also try to bring in all of our employees into the planning phase. So this cross understanding works, especially in such a special industry such as trail building. I think it's hard just to plan trails and not build them, because when you don't build them, you don't see pitfalls like when you're walking through a forest or high alpine landscape. And therefore the planning is very, very crucial. And there's so many interests, so many stakeholders out there, because we're always outside of construction zones. Building a pump track usually is quite easy, for example, because you're within the construction zone. And as long as you follow the rules and laws, you have no problems. But outside the construction zone where the trails are being built, there are so many stakes that come together, and they need to be managed. They need to be taken care of, and that's a big part of trail building. the whole planning, negotiations, and then the whole permission process, which which is quite tough because you have to be super persistent. I mean, it would be easy to say yes and just cut this section or cut this berm or don't go to this area. But at the end, you have to think of what you want to build the trail for. And usually it serves the purpose. And the purpose is to satisfy a target group, be it an enduro trail, a single trail, a jump trail, whatever. But it has to meet the needs of the target group. Otherwise, they're not going to ride it. So it's not going to work. So that's the whole planning side, and that can take. I mean, Martin Stantz already lined that out at the former podcast with you guys. That this phase can take up to 6, 7, sometimes 8, 9 years until you can actually ride up the excavator and start digging. Then the digging phase is quite short, usually takes between weeks and months to build. But that's also not part of the whole story and the journey of a trail. Once the trail is completed, then the whole transfer and ownership needs to be built up. The transfer of the know-how of the maintenance, how to look after the trail. That's so crucial because a trail isn't a finished product like a car you buy. I mean, a car also needs maintenance, for example. So does a trail. And a trail doesn't stay the same. A trail develops over time as the riding level develops and the needs and perception of the target group develops. So it has to be a flexible kind of thing, that trail. And that's, I think, very important to understand the whole process of a trail, and that it's not just building a trail, couple weeks or months that is part of the history of a trail. It's much more.
Well, so given the importance of the planning stage of a trail project, the obvious and cynical question is how important really is the trail builder?
The trail builder, I would say, with the planning, you establish the canvas, and the trail builder is the artist that actually does the painting on the canvas. So it's quite crucial. The trail builder is super crucial, and that's why we do that cross-functional work between planning and construction. As I said before, we try to get everybody involved also in the planning stages and vice versa. So you can feed off the know-how of both sides. And at the end of the day, it's the trail builder that builds the trail, that has the feeling for the shapes and all the physics that need to play, that the trail is actually safe and working.
This opens a curiosity box, because if the trail builder is the artist, in my mind, you can't really manage art. You know, it's almost like it's its own living thing, and it kind of comes. Let's say, I mean, in some cases, maybe not every case, but in any case, you know, if it's actual, let's say they're an artist, but it's, just say it that way. I mean, you touched on it before. Like, there's some points where you have to say, okay, that's how it is, and we're gonna have to make the best with it and finish it by here and move on. I mean, that's not a simple thing to do, to manage that, to manage the artist, the trail builder, and all those things. So it means that not only, like, you can't just say, okay, here, put the trail builder there, press go, and he does his thing, and he's a busy bee. You have to then somehow come in and say, okay, let's reassess the situation at some point, or maybe there's a feedback. How does that work?
Yeah, I think it's never a trail builder, it's the trail builders. It's usually the collective that does the art, that defines the painting on the canvas, actually. Um, but yeah, it's actually not that there is no, when it comes to art, there is no right and no wrong, and the same when it comes to the trail. But at the end of the day, what counts is, does it meet the expectations of the target group or not? Is the trail being ridden or is it not? And that's instant feedback once you open the trail. I mean, Grizzly told you a good few stories about his experiences in Lenzerheide. That as soon you open up a trail, the feedbacks they come, and you can tell by the frequencies how many people ride it, but you can also tell by the feedback. I mean, nowadays it's so transparent with all the social media and all the channels that we use. It's so easy to find out what the perception is of the infrastructure that you created. And that way, what we always keep in the eye is, what do we build the trail for and who we build it for. And there, the artist sometimes needs to take himself back in his own style of art and kind of transform his art into something that meets the expectations of the target group. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, the client says when it's finished, not the artist in that
Yep.
sense.
And especially, I
That's a
mean, the
good
mountain
analogy.
biker is such a diverse group of people. Yeah, I mean, some people like Picasso, some people like Dali, some people like Rembrandt, some people prefer photography. It's the same with mountain bikers. I mean, such a diverse group of people, and but that makes it interesting. That leads to many different trail styles, and you got to be able to build the right trail style in the right situation for the according target group.
It's funny that you mentioned social media, because I have this funny kind of story or example. I was following one of my favorite YouTubers, Van Girl Yuka. Shout out. She's I met her when I was back in Vancouver. And now they're on the road and filming stuff and putting it on YouTube. And she had a little ride secret that she wanted to share with her community, and that was how to find your next favorite trail or the next best trails, like what's going on. And when you dive into the podcast, or sorry, the YouTube, you find out the secret is to follow your local or favorite trail builders on Instagram, because they're posting, a little bit of their work. They're kind of showcasing what they're doing, and generally they're having fun with what they're doing. So they're just kind of posting online. And that way you can reach out to them or even stalk them on trail opening days or whatever it may be. Have you ever encountered any of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's as I said before, it's society is quite transparent these days, and you really got to be thoughtful and careful with how you manage your socials. Especially as a trail building company, we have a responsibility. Sometimes we build trails to channel the frequencies into a certain area, and to give room to nature in another area. So we really got to be careful what we post and what we already promote and push, because people they watch, and people, they're constantly online. Especially the mountain biker is quite a digital kind of species. So we found out that posting but the location where we're building can lead to a lot of tire tracks in not complete the build. The next morning you come to construction site. So yeah, we learned that the hard way as well. And now we're really, really careful with what we post and what we say and what we promote. And
Oh, it's interesting because actually, in a way, you could influence the ridership to go one direction or another. I mean, not vindictively, but for the example, if you want to give that area a rest, you might get your guys to post everything from this other side of the mountain where, it's completely ready to go and hasn't had enough traffic yet. And for whatever reason, you want to maybe avert people there. And I mean, they're going to have a good time anyway. So why not give it a shot for your benefit?
exactly, yeah, you can use it for the good side as well, of course. Once the trail is ready to ride, then it can give a big boost, especially yeah, when you reach target group and tell them, hey guys, come and have a look, and tease them on and get them hot and come and ride.
So you have Vast Trail trail building group, and then you have Vast Multimedia group.
Production incorporation, yeah.
Right on.
I mean,
Nice.
it goes close. It goes hand in hand. The whole trail building and the marketing side. We work together with some very skilled filmmakers and photographers, and also companies that do that very professionally. And no matter if it's like a commercial trail, like in a tourism destination, or if it's a recreational trail in the suburbs of Zurich or somewhere, it definitely has its impacts. What you post, what you communicate, and when you communicate it. So it's definitely a part of the whole plan, the whole social media side. Not only social media side. I mean, it's newsletters, it's newspapers that do reports about the project, etc. And they're yeah, you really got to manage that well.
So for Vast Trail fanboys and girls, is there like a complete list of all the trails that you guys have worked on or completed on the website or something like that? Like how can they find where they can find your work, let's say?
It's to be found on the website,
Yeah.
vasttrails.ch. There is a complete list of what we do. There is on Trail Forks. We also work on labeling our trails. Philip just completed a course with Mr. Jurassic. I think he was on a podcast as well.
Absolutely. Shout out.
Yes, and follow our socials. I mean, as soon something is completed and ready to ride, it will be posted there as well, for sure.
Cool. Well, we are getting towards the end of our time tonight. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, one thing that I feel is very important, don't judge a trail just by what you see and what you experience. There is, as I said before, there is so much more to it, and the planning does the canvas, but the canvas isn't always as big as the artist hopes it to be. As I said before, there are so many stakeholders, and they all need to be managed and they need to be agreed with. At the end, the planning phase is just one big agreement. Everybody feels like it's the winner. But yeah, that means that you also have to make some concessions in the planning phase, and you can't go down that super perfect gully that would allow side hits and rolling contours, and you have to go down a super small channel on the other side, which is only half as attractive, and you write that down, and then you go like, oh, why didn't they go down here? It's because there is a reason for it. And I feel that's very important when you ride the trail, don't judge it by that. Always consider that there are so many different interests coming together in nature and landscape, and they all need to be taken into account on the same level. And that's something that I hope that people understand more, that isn't as easy as it looks like from the rider's perspective.
Well said.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because sometimes it does actually go through my mind. So now I can definitely say to myself, no, there's a reason for this. But then, actually, if we can just extend this a minute, would there be some kind of toolkit that you could provide the average rider as like a quick list? Why would they do that? There's a reason for this.
Like a toolkit.
Yeah, and then they could say to themselves, oh, it could be this, could be this. I guess, they could just go to your website and see some of the information that you post there, and that would allow them to kind of gain an understanding.
I mean, the whole map layers that are available these days, they already give a big deal of information about every area of Switzerland. Like the Swiss map, the online version, the one by the government, you can click all the layers, like all the protected areas, the wildlife habitats, the spring water protection areas, etc. That can all be selected, and just play with that for a while, and then you see how many colors pop up on that map. And all these colors mean there is a restriction. And the challenge is to juggle a suitable line that really works and makes most of the remaining space that you're able to go. And that gives you a good idea of how challenging it is actually to find a consistent line from point E down to point B. That could be a good toolkit. Just check out maps, select those layers, and
SwissTopo.ch.
and check all these colors that pop up on the map with all these zones that are protected.
Right on. Thanks for the pro tip.
But this is the Skids and Giggles podcast. There's one final question we need to ask Bryson.
Oops.
Shoot.
I know all the trail builders will scoff at us, but we love to lay down a fat skid. Do they really destroy trails? Come on, tell it to us straight. And what would a proper skid look like in the eyes of a trail building administrator?
Oh man, skids are mandatory. It's such a big part of mountain biking, and I think a pretty good skid is when it gets slightly out of control.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I really feel that it was a good skid. I intend a skid. Sometimes it's even not intended, but I ride it out, and I feel the adrenaline rushing through my veins. That was a good skid to me. And your first question, no, it doesn't destroy trails. Of course, as I said, there is maintenance, which is very important. It can increase the maintenance sometimes, but suitable skid corners, for example, they just need to be built a bit more durable, I guess, to be skiddable.
Skid proof.
High quality criteria.
Yes.
All right. Cool.
Excellent answer. Thank you for that.
Great for that fantastic answer, and obviously your professional opinion and approving skids on trails. If our listeners have questions about Vast Trails, you mentioned the website. We're going to point them to that in the show notes. If they want to reach out to you personally because they like the story and they, maybe want to share something or want to have more information, where can they find you?
Best way to find me is on Instagram. My account is at Tschumi. You'll find me there. Shoot me a DM and I'll answer as fast as I can.
Sweet. We'll also put that in the show notes. And with that, we say thank you very much for your time. This was really, really, really interesting and really insightful. And I hope we could relay a lot of the massive knowledge about building trails and the business of trail building to our listeners tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on, Dave. Great to meet you.
Thanks for listening. We really hope you enjoyed this episode. Why don't you let us know what you think? We really like to hear from our listeners. To find out how to get in touch with us, follow the links to our website in the description or find us on Instagram under @skitsandgiggles. Until next time, Skigglers.